I've been trying to make my wallet fold all day. Cashing in my dreams, big payout. Underneath my money tree, big shade.
Hey freaking flyers, welcome back to another video on the channel. I'm Brandon, I'm a guy who flies, currently on a layover in Rome. The month is about to be over and I'm like, oh, I need to actually talk about my schedule for next month. For those of you who may be new to the channel, I am an international flight attendant who is based in JFK, but I fly for a European carrier. So if you are familiar or work in American aviation, some things look similar, some things look different. Scheduling is one of the things that does look different. We don't actually bid for schedules with European carriers. Seniority doesn't impact what your schedule looks like. Everybody, like all crew members, are entitled to all flying. So all crew members, regardless of how long you've been at the company, will have a combination of flying and reserve on their schedules. I've been very fortunate because since I graduated, I've had pretty much all flying and relatively few reserve days, so that looks nice. But we do put in any preferences we might have in terms of types of trips we want, days off that we might need. I don't want to fly on any Sundays, so I want to work on every Monday, that type of thing. We put those in on the 20th of each month for the upcoming month. Schedules came out on the 15th. I was actually on a trip. I believe I was in Paris when, or either I was in the air and landed to our schedules being released. So I want to share with you all what my original schedule was. So my original schedule was for 86 block hours, which is a lot because our minimum guarantee is 60. And it started the month with a 3-day trip, a few sprinkled in like single reserve days, which is, it's always weird to me when they give you a reserve day right before a trip. So it's like, y'all really gonna take away my trip and send me somewhere on that day? Like, let's be real. And then I had another 3-day trip. And then I had a long trip. And we call these W's because what it looks like is you basically go from the US to Europe, back to the US, back to Europe, back to the US. So it kind of like, if you think about the letter W, that's what it kind of looks like, just you flying back and forth between Europe. And what I like about these is that our company actually built these as trips. So when you come back to the US, you actually kind of lay over and base. Now granted, you don't have to take the layover or the hotel that they offer you. Like for those people that live in New York, they certainly just go home. But for me, someone who commutes, not having to go to the crash pad or somewhere else to stay, and I can just stay at the crew hotel and already have transportation, I can skip paying for the air train. Yes, sign me up. Sign me up for that crew hotel. So I have a long trip starting on the 19th, which is actually a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 6-day, and then I have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 day that starts on the 28th. So I love those 2 long trips. And once I saw those, I was like, oh, I gotta make some changes. So I went right onto our cabin crew, like crew member, like swap boards, and I had a plan. And the plan was to get rid of those 2 single 3-day trips and swap them for 1 long W trip. I was actually flying with somebody at the same time that was trying to get rid of their W because they was like, I don't want to fly that much, like back to back to back to back, because that can be super exhausting. It looks beautiful to somebody like me who's a commuter, but exhausting for someone else. So I was like, ooh girl, I'll give you these trips. Give me your long one. She only wanted to take 1 trip. So we tried to do this swap. It was denied. Because I would have exceeded 100 hours. And woo, yeah, he hit his head. Hold on. Don't move too fast.
He slipped in. What happened?
He hit his head on the ground. Change the location because, I don't know, it just didn't feel appropriate to keep sitting there like filming while that whole little scene was happening. They were doing first aid and this and that. I just provided my little eyewitness account and then I packed up my bags and I left. But nonetheless, I wanted to close out the video by saying, so they denied our original spot request because it was going to put me over 100 hours. And according to EASA regulations, we can't work over 100 hours in 28 consecutive days. So I'll never cross 100 hours. But my original swap was going to put me at like, I think 103 or 104 hours. So yeah, that was denied. So I had to get rid of 2 trips. I had to first get rid of the trip that I had on 13, 14, 15. And then once that was gone, I was able to swap the trip that I had on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th for the long trip. So now our new schedule just looks like 3 long W trips. So I now have a trip that spans the 2nd through the 7th. Another one that spans the 19th to the 24th. And then the 28th into August somewhere. Now I do have some reserve days because I was gonna go well over my 12 days off. But I do have some reserve days on my schedule. I have 2 reserve days, and I have 2 standby days. So like the way our reserve work is we either have a regular reserve day, which is a 10-hour call out, long. I have 2 of those. And then I have 2 standby days. And how our standby days work is you're still on reserve from at home, but it's a 3-hour call out. We never do airport standby, so that's never going to be on my schedule. So 3-hour call out is you're likely to get called to work that night. 10-hour call out, they would notify you in the morning if they were really going to like send you out on something. So I have 4 days of reserve and those trips, and I still have my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 days off for the month. So no complaints here. I got notification from scheduling yesterday about some stuff in Fort Lauderdale, which y'all know is at home. So I'm telling y'all all of this, and it might change. But of course, make sure you're subscribed to the channel because I'm going to bring you all along for all of the adventures. We, next month, are in Paris, of course, because y'all know I live in Paris part-time at this point. We are going to be back here in Rome, and I do believe we also, somewhere in here, will be going back to Berlin. So lots of Paris, lots of Rome, and some Berlin thrown in there as well. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I'm Brandon, I'm a guy who flies, and I will see you all the next time.
Lower things